Welcome, welcome. Hi, everyone. I am going to wait until somebody tells me they can hear me this time, because never again will I do an entire webcast where I'm the only one here. I already know the answers. I don't need the webcast. All right, so I'm going to wait until it takes a few minutes. Hello, everyone. Tell me when you can hear me. Hello, hello. We have some great questions tonight. Yay! All right, so I'm going to get just started because we've got lots to do and lots of questions. And then you guys know that if you have any questions for the questions, then you'll let me know. All right, so let's get started. Questions we're going to start off with. How do you do a rounded back adjustment on a pattern piece that isn't laid on the fold? Oh, maybe I read this wrong, you guys. Well, I guess I read that wrong because that one's easy. Okay, so let me just show you what I did and then we can do the correction. So here's a rounded back. Here's the slash. You can see at the top. When you make that slash, the back is no longer straight. So if it has a seam, then sew it crooked. Just sew it as is. Add seam allowance and just sew it. If it's on the fold, or if you want to put it on the fold, you see the purple line that goes from the very top to the very bottom. You just draw that straight line and then put it on the fold. You don't have to add a seam allowance. You don't have to do anything. It just takes off a tiny little bit of circumference, but that bit of circumference is just not enough to worry about. So we've shown this many times, but here it is again for all you rounded backers. And you can put it to memory, take a picture of it, write it down, make a note, here it is. Anything you need to do, that's the thing to do. You guys, if I were you, because we're not going to, I would index these questions. Index them as we're doing them. And as you're listening, just say rounded back, 5 to 24. You know, I mean, I would, but, you know, I'm not you. So anyway, okay, the next one is, thank you so much for the New York trip. I can't believe I waited till now to go. I know many did. I was surprised how many people on this last trip. It was their first time. My question is, I'm making a muslin for Giorgio's top, and I need a 6 for the sleeve and a 3 for the body. How do I merge that? Okay, so I drew this. This is Giorgio's top, and the question is because it's a kimono sleeve. So my green line is the size 6, and then it goes into the size 3 body. But you could just take the size 6 sleeve, just take the 6 pattern piece and lay it on top. And then just naturally, you know, the green may not be exactly where it stops. You may have to take it down a little bit, but just blend it naturally to where all you're trying to do is increase the circumference. And remember, you've got a front and a back. So whenever you've got a front and a back sleeve, whatever additional circumference you need, then, you know, you just divide that by half. Be sure you divide it by half. All right? So very simple to do. All right, so in the previous question we had, so full-size pattern. So you know what, this little heart thing is in the way for me, so I can't see the end of this question. So we'll wait till it just goes up a little bit, and then I'll revisit that question to see what the question actually is. Here, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to post a question in here so that it will go. Okay, so a full-size pattern, you make it half a pattern? Of course. You make everything a half a pattern. Unless we're thinking completely in different directions. Unless it's asymmetrical, everything is half a pattern. Is Giorgio's top based on the base patterns? If so, which one? It's based on 195. All the knits are based on 195. All the wovens are based on 600 in the lower numbers, under 1,000. Okay? Okay, next question. All right, this one is, got some good information in here. She's made a tee. This is 195. You can kind of sneak in there and see that French dart. Not really well, but you can. And she wants to know what those wrinkles are. Those wrinkles are caused too little circumference. The way you define wrinkles is by horizontal, means not enough circumference. Angular is depth, but those are not angular, those are straight. And that means that she's got so much negative ease in that blouse that the fabric is barely making it, okay? Which is okay, don't get me wrong. I see lots of women that wear tops like this. But that's not, I mean, I guess it's a fit issue. It's a circumference issue, but it's not a depth issue, and it's not a dart issue. That is a circumference issue, and the circumference of that top is being taut, is being pulled taut. And so that's the end result. Here's the back of it, so that just so we can see. That's a little bit of a sway back there, because you can see that the hem is even, and it's kind of puddling above. The hem looks like it's going straight against her hip, but there's some pooling against there, so I would call that a sway back. But it doesn't matter if you don't fix it, it's not that big of a deal. And here is a version, she did a pattern number 600, which is classic blouse, and she did it in a knit. And she's got darts in there, which you can't see unless you really blow it up big, but it just fits beautiful. I mean, you know, it's beautiful. Okay, nicely done. So those wrinkles that you're worried about, those are circumference wrinkles, and if you don't like them, add a little more circumference to your garment or to the knit. Just don't have so much negative ease. Okay, and I'm going to type in your question just so that those who are watching will get that actual answer in there. Okay, next question. We're on this one right here. So she's making 4509. 4509 is the runaway dress. Or I might have called it walkaway dress. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm only 5 feet. I've shortened it so it comes to my knees. When I tried it on, I'm not able to lift my arms and don't know where to fix the problem. Will making the sleeve wider fix that problem? Okay, this is such a simple little solution. And after I say the answer, you'll say, well, of course. So if you're only 5 feet, or whatever she is, 5'2" anyway, and she shortened and she shortened and she shortened everything, then you have to shorten the armhole too. Otherwise, the armhole is too low and you'll lose mobility. So let me show you in this one right here. See that point, that connection point, that's way, way, way too low for her to get any mobility out of there. It has nothing to do with the circumference of the sleeve. It has everything to do with how low the armhole is. So just move the attachment point up. You know, the red arrow is where it is. Move that up 1 inch, 2 inches, you know, so that you can get some movement out of that sleeve. But it is not a circumference issue. It's simply that the armhole is so low on her. She shortened everything else. My guess is she did not shorten the armhole. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there, and then you guys can tell me what you think. Okay? Okay, so there's another question here. So a full-size back pattern, you fold in half for a rounded back before you adjust it. The pattern is not supposed to be cut on the fold. Instead, it's cut out single layer. You don't need to cut it out. Oh, it's cut out single layer. I see. Yeah, you just fold it in half. Then make the rounded back adjustment. Yes. Here, I'll put in here. Sorry. I'll put in here yes and yes. Okay, so that you can verbalize that and see what I'm saying. Okay, so let's go back to this question here, our next question. When I wear shorts, they ride up in the inner thigh when I walk. My short length is medium to long. This really annoys me. I'm 5'4", curvy with full bum and thighs. Do you have any way to fix this? Nope. Nope. I do not. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's called friction. Well, if your thighs rub together, most everybody's thighs rub together. If your thighs rub together, then that's friction. The fabric in between those thighs is, you know, it's just being rubbed back and forth. And what we'll do when something is rubbed back and forth, it will go up. The fabric will go up, and that's exactly what's happening. So a while ago, and I mean probably 20 years ago, I was on a panel of it was, anyway, doesn't matter. But anyway, they were trying to solve this problem, and they were thinking about putting weights and all kinds of things at the bottom of shorts. Nothing solves it. Pants solve it because you've got more weight at the bottom. You've got the whole leg. But with shorts, there's just, I don't have an answer. If you come up with an answer, you let me know. Good luck on that. I just don't have an answer to offer you, and I apologize for that. Except I would make the leg larger. Make the leg larger. It's still going to ride up. There's still going to be extra. It's still going to ride up. But as far as holding it down, but at least if it's a little bit larger, it won't be as noticeable. Okay? Okay. This next photo, the question is button placement on blouses. It may be a circumference issue. What is the best place to place the buttons? She could, oh, I see. She's got a gap. Sorry, you guys. I'm trying to shortcut these. She's got a gap at the front of her blouse, and she's trying to figure out the best way to solve that gap. So there are rules with buttonholes and buttons, and that's why I put this here. Buttons should go, and I kind of, I put this down. This is a pattern making question, to be honest, and this is, I hate to keep telling y'all, this is where your lack of pattern making, this stuff just keeps coming back to you. It just keeps repeating itself back more and more. Buttons are supposed to be placed at the greatest point of stress. Now, that doesn't mean they are in ready to wear. I mean, rarely do I ever see a buttonhole at the bust or button. They're like put above and below. And my joke is that it's always a man designing those buttons because they want to be able to see in our blouses. That's just a joke, obviously. But so the greatest points of stress are the neckline, the bust line, and the waistline. So that's where the buttons should go, and then anything that is in between those is simply a design. And so that's just a really easy rule, and that's how we roll. And let me go back. I saw a question here. On the dress, she raises the armhole. She would shorten the sleeve by the same. No, you misunderstood that completely. Let me clarify. I never said she needed to raise the armhole. I said all she had to do, that sleeve in that particular dress is kind of like it's only attached part of the way. She's attached it too far down. Just loosen up where it's attached. She doesn't need to raise the armhole, or maybe she does, but that's not the question. The question was just about mobility. So I don't want to take one question and make a whole bunch of problems out of that. I only want to solve that question. Her question was mobility. So all she has to do is raise the point of connection. I'm going to go back to that picture for just a minute so that you can actually see what I'm saying. That connection point, because she is shorter, is too low on her. Can you see? It's way too low. Now that maybe you understand what I'm saying, and maybe I didn't explain myself clearly, so my apologies. But it's just way too low on her. So what she needs to do is raise it up. She doesn't have to change the armhole. She doesn't have to do any of that. She doesn't have to shorten this. You're getting too complex. Just keep it simple. Okay? And then go from there. Okay. Okay. And it is one thing I think that's very interesting. A lot of times when we're communicating and talking, when something is said, we have a tendency to twist it to what we hear. It's not what we said. It's just something that, we just want to hear it correctly. Okay. Let's go into this next one. There's no photo on this next one. I'm sorry, you guys. What was 8? Sorry, you guys. Oh, yeah, this is buttonhole. Okay. So this question is, first off, it's pattern number 424. It's the new bolero. Is it supposed to be at the waist? No. The hem is like a bust line. It's a bolero. It's very, very short. It does not go to the waist. It goes just really bust area in the back, like the bra line. So it's not meant to go to the waist. It's just a short little top section, bolero. Bolero, by definition, is just covering the shoulders, basically. Okay, the next question is Josie's jacket proportions. We need to not even ask a question before you get the problem, before you get the pattern. We haven't even sent out the patterns, so I'm going to skip that. It's too much anticipation as far as the issue goes. And then she has a question on pockets. Now, I'm going to give you all a couple little guidelines. If there is a question that is fitting related, I will answer it. If it's a question that's opinion related, I won't answer it because it's an opinion. It's a design choice, and you are your designer. I'm not your designer. So my design choices are in the pattern, and that's where I've put them. And then when you get them, if you don't like them, or if you feel like you have others that you'd rather do, then you should override mine. Mine are not written in gold. Mine are just based off my thoughts, my, background, my history, all of those things. That's all mine are. And mine are changeable because it's your garment. You're the one who's going to wear it, not me. So ask yourself those two questions. Number one, is it fit related? If it's fit related, that's what we're here for. We're here to answer fitting issues. If it's opinion related, we're not. So she's got a lot of questions on pockets. None of that is fit related. In this particular case, none of it is fit related. None of it I want to address or feel like I'm qualified to address. Is that fair? I made the pattern. I can help you fit it. I can get it spot on. But I can't advise with patterns. I just don't think it's my place to do so. What pattern number is that dress? Here, I'll type it in. I think it's better for me to put these answers in writing. It's 4509, I think it is. Regarding cutting pants, if making a smaller leg, how do you change sizes? Do you cut both seams smaller? How fast do you taper down? Okay, so this was answered really well in a previous webcast, previous Q&As. So, I actually diagrammed it. So if I explain it to you, it's very difficult to wrap your head around it. Whereas if I show you a diagram, you can get it, very easily. So I did diagram it, and we haven't had that many Q&As. If you, Miranda, will go back over the Q&As and just look at where those pants come up. And again, I would make, for yourselves, I would make a little index as to what Q&A is answered where. So if you have that problem or something related to that, you can go back and just make sure that that's what you heard. Okay, that's just a suggestion. You all can do that. But these Q&As are going, in my mind, how I see them, is they won't go forever, because you won't have Q&As forever. You will have all the Q&As answered, and we'll stop doing these and we'll start doing something else. We don't need to have a webcast just to have a webcast. The goal is to give you the answers that you need to move you forward. But if we're answering the same questions over and over, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I could be wrong, but to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Are you guys on the same page? Okay, good. Good. Yeah, because those who listen, and really what I want to bring in is things that we haven't talked about before, so that we really can. My goal is to help you see that fitting questions they're not forever. They're not, you won't have fitting issues the rest of your days, the rest of your sewing lives. You won't. And so I want you to see that there's an end to them, and that we're going to hit that end, and that's going to be a good thing. Okay, this next question. And I hope you all appreciate the spirit in which I'm doing that. Okay, this is, I'm going to read some of this letter because I feel very sad. That's me, not the letter. I feel very sad reading it. She says, I'm struggling with a petite body and need advice. I've been making your patterns for years, not a newbie, but still have some questions. So I thought it was time to reach out, which, good. I'm 5'2", upper chest. All of this isn't necessary because her question is, how do I do the follow? I typically do actually there isn't a question at all. There's the changes that she typically does, and I'm going to show this as I'm doing it because I drew this up. But she says that she thinks she really understands LCD. I think when I read this, what she needs is a good girl. She needs an atta-girl. Atta-girl. Because I love your patterns, but I really struggle sometimes to make them fit. I have a few favorites that I have mastered, but struggle with some, especially the patterns that aren't straightforward and have some styling to them and unique lines. Okay, those to me are the ones you should be sending, not a generic, because I can answer a generic, but I feel like I'm maybe not helping you. So I'm going to answer generically the best I can. If you are 5'2", there are 3 places that you need to make adjustments. Above the bust, below the bust, above the waist, below the waist, above the hips. Now, I put in here, most likely, when you're above the bust, as long as you're within the bust circle, like on princess seams, you don't need to make any adjustment. So that should not be a problem. the waist is usually shaped. It's not exact. And there's typically no alignment point for the hips. So if you take it off the hem, then that will do the shortening. Okay, now, having said all this, you guys, many times especially when I'm in workshops, someone will come to me and say, I have this muslin and it's too low in the bust, or it's doing this, XYZ. And that's not the problem at all. They've actually misdiagnosed the problem. So we show them the right problem. We tell them what to do. I tell them what to do. And they're like, oh, you're right. Yeah. So it's always a funny process to me, except it's not funny because it's their garment and you guys are the ones struggling. So this is exactly what this format is for. If those patterns where you are struggling to make them because they are different, those are the ones you guys should be making up. Those are the ones you should be taking pictures. Those are the ones you should say to me, how do I do this? Not only will it help you, it'll help everybody out there. I challenge you guys to get sewing, get going, take your fears and just dust them off and just go for it and get going. All right, so this is a very straightforward L. This is, lengths. These are your 3 lengths. That's all there is. So if you're 5'2", for instance, the patterns are made for 5'8". You don't take away 6 inches because it's only 3 inches in the top part of there's a 6-inch difference, but it's only 3 inches in the whole top part of your body. So maybe an inch under the waist, maybe a little bit more, but it's not that much. And it could be under the armhole and above the bust point. So again, this is not that much. And because I hate to hear you say that you're struggling because you're 5'2". Embrace that height and let's get it done. Okay? What pattern are you wearing? I'm wearing 523. It's ridiculously my favorite pattern. 523 is frames 4-way halter. Okay, so it's only it's 8:22. I've got about, I hate to be so exact, 8 minutes where I can answer any questions that you have just in general. If they're real in depth, then I hate to offer answers because I really like to make sure the answers are really, when I diagram these out and show you all how to do all this, I enjoy this process because I feel like the answer is so concise and I feel like you can really grasp hold of that answer, not just hear a bunch of words. And so I think it's really important to grasp the answer, not just hear a bunch of words. Okay, so having said that, and I know I said, but like if there's questions that you have, I can say, you know what, we've done that, go back. Because again, we haven't done that many Q&As. I mean, maybe a dozen, maybe since the beginning of the year, I can't remember, but we've only done a few. And they're not very long. I've tried really hard to keep them to, the time frame so that they won't take forever. And if you hit the little button that goes through the videos really fast, it goes through every 5 seconds, you can catch probably what I'm saying at that time frame. But I love these Q&As. I just think they are, I guess in my mind, what I'm trying to do is show you there's a finite number of issues that you can have. It's not forever. I mean, I have so many of you who say to me, I've been struggling with fit my whole life. That just is like tragic to me. That's just silly. It's not silly. I don't mean to say that. It's horrible, but we can stop it. We can put an end to it, and we can get things to fit us and fit us well if we want to, if we're willing to put in a little bit of work. You guys do have to do a little bit of work. You need the knowledge, but you've got to do a little bit of work. Okay, on the Landis jeans patterns, would the knee be at the level on the pattern where the leg is thinnest? It doesn't matter where the knee is. It makes no difference where the knee is on the pattern. There's no anatomical alignment point between that pattern and your knee. So it doesn't make any difference. If you are measuring a pair of jeans that you like, and you measure them at the thigh and the knee and the hem, you're going to duplicate the style on the jean you're making. So I would say to you guys, and I think this is widespread, I really do, I would say to you, stop worrying about what the pattern, what the alignment points of the pattern are. There's very few anatomical alignments. The bust circle and the bust is one, and the waist if there's a seam. But other than that, the crotch, it's just not that exact. And I'm from these questions, I'm really hearing that you want this to be so very exact, and I just don't think it is. Can I use a one-way stretch woven on Lana's jeans? Lana's jeans is made for a non-stretch fabric. So I'm going to ask you that question back, and I'm going to ask you to answer that question. Can I use a one-way stretch on classic blouse, pattern 600 classic blouse? Okay, so the answer is yes, but would I adjust the size? If I had, remember, circumference, and the reason and the purpose that we deal with circumference is mobility. So mobility. If I have a knit, that's why I don't need any extra circumference, because when I go to move, the knit moves with me. It stretches, and then it goes back to shape. When I have a woven, it doesn't stretch. So when I go to move, I have to have more fabric around my body. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to move. My sleeve wouldn't move. Sleeveless is a different issue. But that's the reason we have different circumferences. Circumferences are based off the type of fabric I'm using. And I need the least amount of fabric in a knit. I need a little more with a stretch woven. And I need the most when I have woven. I need the most fabric, ease. I need more ease because the fabric itself doesn't have any ease. So I don't necessarily need a different pattern. I need to know how much to come down. I need to know what I like. I need to know how to change it to the size I want. So does that make sense? I mean, when you're asking me these questions, I feel like what I want to do is give you the logic, not just give you the answer. Okay? So I'm trying to give you the logic behind why I use different sizes, not just that I use a different size. Okay? And Peggy, I struggle with the best way to narrow a shoulder. I have to narrow every pattern, redraw the arm sky, and cut a block and move it over. And this is way, way, way too much work. Where's your armhole template? Where's your armhole template? Where does the armhole template go? You should lay down that armhole template. You shouldn't be cutting anything. The armhole template goes from the point of the shoulder and it goes to the side seam. Lay down that armhole template and be done with it. So this is part of that class. Ready, set, sew. This is the kind of stuff I'm going over because I think you guys are just making this way too hard and you're not preserving what you're learning and moving it forward. Now that's an opinion. That's kind of the stuff that the whole reason I did that class, Ready, Set, Sew, is because I realized by talking to a lot of you and going to workshops that there's just so much minutia that you're going through that isn't necessary. So a top pattern has an anatomical fit, has the anatomical fit from the top of shoulder to waist. Anatomical, no, that's not true. A top pattern, anatomical is alignment points. So your alignment point as a top is the dart to the bust point. If there's no dart, then there's no anatomical alignment. If you don't have a dart in a blouse, there's no anatomical alignment. It doesn't matter where it goes to. My templates are old, I need new ones. Then make new ones. Okay. As soon as we get done tonight, make new ones. Let's get these new ones. You're just doing too much work. If you're not using templates, you're having too much work. Every designer out there, everybody who wants to get the fitting process done quickly uses templates. Okay, that's where I first came. I didn't make them up. I had seen them being used over the years. How can I can't see the end of this question. Okay, here we go. How can I use a stretch bull denim on 3218 pants? 3218 is a stretch woven. Again, this is all size adjustment. It's how much the stretchable denim stretches versus what the circumference is on 3218. Just make that comparison. Do you all understand what I'm saying when I say that? Make sure you understand what I'm saying when I say that. I think that's what we're struggling with, is worrying anatomical proportion is because we don't understand the rationale in patterns. Well, I would agree with that, but Janet, don't you think it's better to take a pattern making class? No? I mean, you guys tell me, what do you think the answer is? I think you're struggling because you don't have enough. I think it's a circle. I've said this before. You sew and you learn to sew and you learn a lot around, but until you learn patterns, that circle isn't complete, and so you get stuck halfway through the circle. That's an opinion. You guys tell me. But there's no proportion in patterns. Yeah, there's no proportion. But this is food for thought, you guys. I would love it if you thought about this. Shoot me emails just about, tell me where you get lost. Tell me where you are frightened to move forward. Tell me, just kind of be honest when you sit down to sew next time. What are your hang-ups? What are your fears? If you tell me that, like our new series of PBS, we're doing a sewing as a life skill. And I'm going to tell you something. Sewing has got to be one of the easiest things in the world. Sewing. You've got different levels, and we're going to break off all these different levels, and this is a fascinating series to me because I've done a very concise job of separating the parts. And then you'll be able to see it and say, that's the part I'm missing, that's the part I'm missing, but I got that part. And so I think it's really important to do that, and that's what I'm working on doing. I took pattern making 35 years ago, was away for it for a long time, so I have to relearn it. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I took pattern making 35 years ago too, but I've used it a lot. So it is like anything. If you know it and don't use it, then it's useless. If you know it and utilize it, and I stress that a lot, for those of you who love to sew, sew. It needs to be part of your life. It needs to be part of your, it doesn't have to be daily, but I think it should be weekly, because I think if it's not weekly, I just think it's, I don't know, could be monthly. Let's say that. Let's make it monthly. But something, if you're looking around you, say, hey, I could make that. Not because you have to, just because you want to, and it's fun to do it, and it feels good. The class is easier to understand than the. Okay, is the class easier to understand than the DVD? I'm just confused with it, I guess. The why of things. Yeah, the why of things is critical, you guys. I mean, I'm a why person. I'm a 2-year-old. Why is that, Mommy? Tell me why that is. I've been that way my whole life. I love the whys. I love the answers. I need the answers. I can't go on without knowing why. And once I have the why, it's easy. I don't even have to memorize it. It's logical. It makes sense. Patterns are math, and they're logical, and they make sense. And that's why I think I love pattern making and sewing, but also because it becomes layered. And so, like, I hope nobody's offended by this, but if you take scrapbooking, and scrapbooking is probably layered too, but like you can do this amazing job, and it doesn't get any harder. Scrapbooking is just what it is. It's scrapbooking. But what I love about sewing is that it's layered in that you can do more and more complex things. And I love the layering. I love the growth. I love the progression of that, to where I could look back 5 years ago and say, whoa, I'm so much better now than I was then. I enjoy that. Me too. I need the why. Yeah. I think a lot of us do. I think those people who are attracted to me are because I'm the why type of person. And a lot of times I hope I teach you and tell you the whys, because I need them, and I have respect that you need them too. Okay? Okay, so now we're 4 minutes over. So this doesn't go on. I'm going to say goodnight. I appreciate you all being here. If you will go through and figure out, where are you nervous? Where are you worried? What are your issues? And then just let me know. And that's what we really need to continue on. But for those of you, I'm going to suggest the pattern making class and that Ready, Set, Go. Ready, Set, Sew. We start next Wednesday, actually. We start next Wednesday, Ready, Set, Sew. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, get in that class. And, It's $99. It's not expensive. Okay, other than that, we will see you. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next time. All right, happy sewing. Bye.